Hey everybody, welcome to FBC Missions So That podcast. So glad that you're joining us today. We have a friend that went with us on our trip to Turkey and Georgia. Her name is Lidia Gallardo. Excited to have her here in the studio, and I hope you enjoy. Welcome to FBC Missions So That podcast. This is an encouraging place to hear how God is working in and around us. We know that He blesses His people so that they can bless the world around them. Join us as we discuss how to join God in all that He is doing. Why is God working in our life, church, and community? It's so that through us the world will know that He is near. Hey everybody, welcome to the podcast today. So you probably know me, but my name is Chad. I'm the missions pastor at First Baptist Church here in Boerne, and so excited to have this podcast with you today. I have a friend of mine. Her name is Lidia with me in the studio. How are you doing, Lidia?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Great to have you with us.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's been fun getting to know you really over the last couple of years in lots of different ways. But you don't go to First Baptist. That seems to be like one of the things I want to say here at the beginning. We've interviewed a lot of people from a lot of places, but Lidia goes to Oak Hills Church just down the road. And she participated on our mission trip this year, and she went with us to Turkey and Georgia. So why don't you introduce yourself? Just tell us about you and your family, maybe your professional background, and just tell us a little bit about yourself before we jump into the mission trip. So who is Lidia?
Okay, well, of course, my name is Lidia Gallardo. I'm in a family of 6. I have 4 kids, 3 boys and a girl. And my husband and I, we have a business. We are in the glass business. And we attend Oak Hills. We've been there for more than... I guess more than 25 years now.
Okay, wow.
Yes. My kids grew up there. Yeah. I dedicated my kids to the Lord and said, Lord, whatever you want to do with them. And I'm so happy because they're all right now serving in the church. So, some of them, they're interns. Some of them are actual, working on staff. And then the rest, we're all serving. We're always serving every Sunday.
Yeah, so I know the answer, but how old are your kids?
My kids are 24.
Wait, you said you had 4 of them.
Yes, they're quadruplets.
They're quadruplets. That little piece of information was always fun for people to hear when we were on our mission trip. And so I can't, I have 2 daughters, one 15, one 12. I can't imagine having 4 at once. Kudos to you and your husband for raising quadruplets. Is that how you say it?
Quadruplets. So it's a blessing from the Lord, and only He was the one that provided
3
for
sons
their health.
And a daughter.
Yes.
Wow. And they're all doing so well. I've gotten to meet, I think, all of them at some point now. So it's amazing that they love the Lord and that you guys are serving God together. What an incredible thing.
Oh yes.
Yeah. Let me ask you, why did you want to go to Turkey and Georgia with another church? Like what inspired that whole idea?
Well, I was in a perspectives class, and
people listening are going to say everything that Chad does goes back to perspective. So yes, the perspectives class. I love it. So go ahead.
But this is how it expands.
It does.
So I was in the perspectives class, and I got to meet a lot of people from First Baptist, and they said, "Hey, Lidia, we're having a mission Sunday. Why don't you come over?" And I said, "Okay, sure, why not?" So a whole family came over, and then it was going over, all the trips that we take. That you take. And then that particular trip just caught my attention, and I thought, oh, Turkey, Georgia. I said, never been there. I thought that was a very awesome trip. I think it's going to be fascinating in the sense of going and what is involved. So, of course, I asked you if that was okay, but I really prayed about it because I wanted to make sure that it was okay, that it was fine. And then when y'all said it was okay for me to join, I was really grateful because, it could have been I'm sorry, it's only for members of the church or only, people that we know that are going on this trip. But you involved me in the kingdom work, and that's what counted, and that's what made the difference. That it wasn't, because I go to Oak Hills or because I don't go to First Baptist. It was because we're all doing the Lord's work, which is the kingdom work. And so I was very grateful. And that's the reason why And of course, I got my husband's permission.
Yeah, of course. Well,
I was going to go 2 weeks, not one.
no, I know. Well, that's there's so much to it. Like, it didn't help that your husband got sick right before he left. He had
I know.
pneumonia, and you were trying to figure all that out too. But
Yes.
praise God, we are done. The trip went well. We had a great time. Your husband is healthy. He's doing well. Your business
He's
is
hanging in there.
still okay.
Yes,
doing good.
that one's still hanging in there. The Lord is providing for us.
Yeah. Praise God that there wasn't anything cataclysmic while we were gone. So praise Jesus. He really did take care of us. So I tell you, just from my perspective, I led the trip. Having you along was a blessing to our team. It was great to have your energy, your excitement, your passion for the Lord, your passion for the gospel. It was always evident, always a part. And so we were so glad that you got to go with us. It impacted our team in a really positive way. So I'm so glad that you were with us, Lydia. So you guys have been, again, you're new to FBC. So you guys have been following the Lord for a long time. You said 25 years at Oak Hills. How did you come to faith?
My father, who passed away last year, was a minister. Actually, he was a church planter here in San Antonio. So I understand the field in the sense of the missionary work. I understand the field of being in a church that's just growing to where huge church like Oak Hills. So I understand the struggles, just everything, So I was born in the faith.
So he was doing that when you were young. Wow. Well, that's a different perspective for you to carry and hold on to. Well, praise God. Some people who especially are raised with pastors as parents or missionary parents, sometimes people walk away from their faith. And praise God that he sustained you and you've been faithful and connected to him throughout your life. What a blessing. Well, so let me ask you, when you were planning or thinking about Turkey and Georgia, what did you expect?
Okay, I'm going to be honest.
Yeah, be honest.
What I
fine.
expected was, and I should have done my research, but I didn't. What I expected was that I was going to go to like a third world country, that they were very poor, that I was going to see, poverty everywhere. But when I get there, it was like, I feel like I was in Houston. I feel like I was in Las Vegas, the places, main cities that we had gone to.
Sure.
And I was like, oh my word, they're so Western.
Yeah, so
McDonald's, Burger King.
And the nicest McDonald's you've ever seen, right?
That is true. That is true.
It's the wildest thing. So just so you know, those listeners, we spent the first 5 days of our trip in Turkey, but we split our time between Istanbul, which is one of the largest cities in the world, and Izmir, where we kind of visit some of the ancient sites from the letters to the churches in Revelation that John wrote. And so we got to see some ancient sites, but yeah, Istanbul itself is an extremely modern city, and especially the parts of it that we were in. We're staying in places where the embassies are located, and just down the road from some of the famous sites, and so yeah, we're on these really nice streets, really nice places, kind of in the middle of some of the nice parts of Istanbul. And Istanbul as a city is very nice anyway. It's a very huge modern city. I think that the population swells in the daytime to as much as 30 million people, and so it's the only city in the world that spans 2 continents, right? Like it's in Asia and in Europe, and it seems like it's just that big. It really is massive. But then you get to Georgia, and Georgia is a more impoverished country, but it's not poverty. Like you're still in the city. We stayed in a resort up on a hill on a lake, and it was a beautiful space.
Beautiful.
And we visited Batumi, which is the Black Sea coast, and Batumi is kind of the Las Vegas of Georgia. It's a tourism center with casinos and the beach. The Black Sea coast is there, so you've got the Black Sea beaches there. You can rent the parachute that takes you out over the water. There's jet skis going by. It's not tropical like you'd think, Caribbean, but it is beautiful, and it is a huge body of water. So it'd probably be like if you visited Lake Michigan or something in the summertime. So beautiful place. We had a beautiful spot, but yeah, we really didn't interact with poverty directly very much.
Right. That was my surprise in that sense. Of the countries.
So let's start talking about the trip. So we flew. It was a long journey getting to Istanbul. And once we arrived, we pretty much immediately the next day went to Izmir so we could kind of view some of those sites. What are some things that stood out to you from those first couple of days?
Oh, it was there in Turkey. It was so fulfilling in the sense too, where we went to, where we read in Revelations the churches, and when we were there, it just brought things to life about reading about Paul. Maybe I was walking in the same place that Paul was walking. I mean, it was just overwhelming. It was just so much that I just took it all in. It was beautiful. It was so that part of the trip was very much something like a personal growth, because when I read the Bible now, it's I can say I was there.
Yeah.
I remember this. I remember
Sure.
that.
Sure is. There's some amazing things. Every time I take a team to Turkey and we walk the streets of ancient Ephesus, and you're seeing all the white marble and the pillars and the theater stadium and the library, and you're just looking at all this history and you're thinking, man, this was a city of 250,000 people when Paul lived here. And it really is just as incredible to think about the scope of all that God did. We looked at Acts chapter 19 and 20 to see, like, how did the gospel impact the city? And it's actually one of the most incredible impacts in all the New Testament, what God does through Paul and his associates there in the city in Ephesus. But later, the next day, we actually drove up to another place called Pamukkale, and it's near the church site of Laodicea. And it was my first time in Laodicea. I was really impressed by that location as well. It wasn't nearly as excavated and polished as Ephesus.
But it was wonderful, especially when we got together to pray in that area.
Yeah.
Because that was an area where it had been occupied before, and now we were there.
Yeah, so here's the great thing. Those of you who are listening, in the ruin of Laodicea, they said that the excavation didn't begin there till 2006. So it's only 19 years that people have been excavating and kind of archaeologically opening this hilltop
Area.
that is Laodicea. But one of the first things that they found, of course, was a church that was built in the 4th century. And so here's one of the things. All across the Roman world, you see these ancient churches, but none of them predate the 4th century because Christianity wasn't legal until the 4th century. And so what you do find is before the 4th century, before the legalization of Christianity, you find house churches. We saw them a lot in Ephesus, like signs where they scratched into the marble Christian symbols that would indicate the believer lived in this place, or at least that this was a Christian business owner or home.
Right.
But in Laodicea, there was a really amazing, well-preserved kind of home that had multiple dwellings on the outside of this courtyard. And one of the dwellings had been converted into a chapel, into a small church. And so this is what a house church would have looked like in the 1st century. And it really was remarkable because you're about 100 yards from a large building that was the actual church that would have been built in the 4th century or later. And then another about 100 yards away was the theater. And they mentioned how if the house churches were full, then they would meet in the theater with the permission of the leaders. If there wasn't persecution at the time, oftentimes worship could have taken place in the theater. But then once the church gained, notoriety, once that was legalized, then they could build an actual structure. And here you have this large church just another 100 feet away.
Right.
So in this one little space, you could walk one direction, you got the theater, one direction you've got the house church, and one direction you've got the large building of the established church. And it really was just remarkable to get to stand there. And then it also kind of didn't lose on our hearts that we're standing there in that house church and you can see the lukewarm water springs across the valley.
Exactly.
And you're thinking about Jesus' words to Laodicea that he didn't want them to be lukewarm. And you realize that had extremely specific meaning to these people in this place. And also you see that the church thrived there for centuries after. So it seems that maybe they heeded the warning of John, so...
Right.
400 years later, they're erecting a large building, and there's a church, a thriving church in this community for a very long time afterwards. So super neat to see how the gospel impacted those places and those people. And that's why we take it. That's why when we go to Turkey, you try to take a couple of days and go see some of those sites, just so we can just talk about what it meant for the gospel to engage a pagan population and within 3 or 4 centuries saturate the population with the gospel. That's what you see in Ephesus. It's what you see in Laodicea. It's what you see in lots of other of those churches as well, is that the gospel was thriving in those environments as early as 90 to 100 AD, which is within 50 years of the emergence, the beginning of Christianity. So what an incredible thing.
Beautiful.
Yeah, so we had a lot of fun in Turkey. We walked a little bit. We ended up back in Istanbul. We saw some things there. We got to meet with Pastor Vahan. That was one of my highlights for me.
At the church?
To meet the Turkish pastor there and hear his story and his heart. What else stood out to you there in Turkey?
The persecution.
Tell me about that.
That how the minister and also our missionary that's there, Andy. I say my missionary because he's also part
totally
of the kingdom.
Fine. Of course.
And I was just surprised because he was saying how the Muslims had come and broken all the windows, the storefronts of their church, but the local police or the local government wanted to make sure that there was peace, so they went ahead and had policemen outside. And then on Sunday when we had gone to church, the policemen were outside. They were there. Now, I know we have securities in our own home. In our own churches. I understand that we see them every day, but this is very different. This is there because there is an actual alert or something that can happen, and they're trying to avoid it. And so that's why they have the local police are there to just keep the peace.
Well, there's really 2 pieces to it. The one piece is that they can protect the church. That's their primary. That's what they talk about the most. But the other thing is they can also keep an eye on what's happening in the church. So there's a level there too that Vahan feels like even the police present, that's constant. It's around the clock, 24/7. There's a police officer in front of that church, the Christian church, and he said one reason is, of course, they say, well, we don't want anyone to get out of hand and we want to protect you. But they said that he feels more often than not the reason is because they want to make sure that we're not doing anything too overt or too wild.
Exactly.
But he also says that they've taken it on themselves. Since the police are there, they try to bless the police all the time. So they take them coffee. They let them come in on cold nights, like come into the lobby, and they have a coffee maker for them, and they have teas set up for them and hot water.
They're being evangelized.
So they're doing their very best. There's free Bibles and Turkish right there at the table. So like they say, hey, if you're going to be here, you might as well come on in and enjoy. So like they don't try to hide anything, and it's really quite a wonderful story all by itself. But the first time we were there, we were halfway through a conversation and the police all came in, and all of us were like, we had trouble. And Vahan was like, hey, they're my friends. Let's go talk to them. And it was very funny. But they were walking in to see what all these Western people, why are all these Americans here? What are they doing? And they did ask those kind of questions. But Vahan said it was just a friendly visit, not an interrogation, though they asked a bunch of questions. So
exactly.
It was funny. Well, Vahan tells that story of the intense persecution of his grandparents. And one day when Vahan visits, we'll kind of ask him to share that story for himself. But one of the realities for Turkey is that early in the 19th century, around 1910, was the end of some of the big upheaval of that time, right around World War I and all those things that were going on globally. There was major conflict and trial, and at the end of that time, modern day Turkey was born. There was a guy named Ataturk, was kind of the founder of modern day Turkey, and he brought a lot of major reforms. He tried to kind of bring about a democratic and secular state within the Muslim world, which was kind of new. But really quick, what happened is they ended up going to war with all the Christians that were in the country. At that time, about 25% of the population was Christian. But by the end of that time, I think they said 1913, less than half of 1% of the population was Christian. And so there was major death and massacres. Some people use the word genocide describing it. But in the end, almost 3 million Armenian Christians were either killed or forcibly removed from Turkey. They put them in Greece. At the same time, Greece did the same kind of thing towards the Muslims. Ended up they sent the Muslims to Turkey and the Christians to Greece, and there was this big swap. But millions of people died in the process in this terrible moment. And so Vahan tells a story that both of his grandparents, both sets of grandparents, his mom's parents and his dad's parents, both were killed in that time frame. And so he grew up hating Turks and not trusting Muslims. And so it's really interesting to hear about his growth towards Christ and all that God has done in him since. He's an amazing man. Yeah, he's amazing. And listening to his stories were really fun. One day we'll have him on the podcast. So if you're listening, one day you'll see Vahan on the title. You should definitely listen to that one. But that was only our first 5 days. So we're already 20 minutes into our 30-minute podcast. And we're just talking about Turkey. We didn't even get to all that. There's so much more. But we flew then to Georgia. And really the majority of our trip was in Georgia. And just so of you listening, it's not where Atlanta is. This is the Republic of Georgia, which is the ancient country. Really the first time Georgia is mentioned in history books, at least its ancient names, are really before Christ, 1,000 years before Christ. So 1000 BC is when you see kind of the emergence of a Georgian state there, kingdoms that later, Iberia, others, but later became Georgia. So let's ask maybe your first impressions. You'd never been to Georgia before. What did you think of that country?
It's beautiful. Green. I thought I was in Seattle because it's so green everywhere.
Yeah, we were there in the springtime, so lots of rain and it was green. We checked into our hotel, and the next morning we drove across the country to like I said, the Las Vegas of Georgia. It's called Batumi. But yeah, beautiful trip through the mountains to get there, through these big tunnels, all the way through. You see these deep wooded valleys and in the distance,
rivers, lush,
beautiful rivers, and in the distance, snow-capped mountains. Like you've really. I
understand why you like it.
It's just a gorgeous, gorgeous country. And so we spent a couple of days in Batumi. What did you think of Batumi?
It was really nice. I almost felt at home, like I wasn't somewhere different. It was very beautiful. The people are very nice. I just had a good time there. It's just a very spiritual time in the sense of talking to our host, which was Gia, right? I always mispronounce his name. That's why. I'm sorry.
You got it.
But yes, Gia and his family, very nice, and got to understand that they're also going through the same thing as Turkey. It wasn't easy for us to just go and maybe as a group try to invite people to come to the local church, because I know that there was like a stigma with the Jehovah Witness and not able to, hand out cards. So it's more on a personal level.
All these little things. But yeah, most places today, even I would say in America, you find that most evangelism strategies that are successful start with relationships, right? You start with people that know you or trust you or have some sort of investment in you, or you're invested in them. And that opens the door for spiritual conversations that lead people to faith in Christ. It's difficult to have a stranger evangelism kind of cold turkey engagement where you just walk up to someone you've never met on the street and you're able to share the gospel with them and see them come to faith. You can have a good conversation. We actually had several in Batumi. We walked along, it's called the Boardwalk. It's right on the Black Sea coast. And on one side is all the hotels. On the other side is the water and the rocks. There's no sand on this beach. It's a rock beach, big rocks.
That's true.
And so you're kind of walking through this big gravel. And actually one of the funnest things was listening to the waves crash on the gravel, because you hear this clickety clacking. It's not just the roar of the water, it's the rocks that are hitting each other and then flowing with the rocks out. So it was really kind of a fun thing to hear the crashing of the rocks in the water. Anyway, I love that sound. I recorded several little videos trying to catch the sound itself. It was fun. But there's so much more. So we spent those couple of days. We visited with Gia's mother-in-law's family, who has been kind of a patriarch. Her husband, Tomazi, planted the church there in Batumi 20 plus years ago. And he died last year of a heart attack, kind of really fast. Within a few minutes, he had the heart attack and was gone. And it was unexpected. And so like they showed us a new building that they had just finished that Tomazi had started.
Beautiful.
It was
Beautiful.
beautiful. And we got to spend some time with the church, just kind of hearing their stories and sharing our stories. The next night we drove out to a house church, which is in the mountains, which was another just beautiful. It's like Georgia, you go from one beautiful environment to the next. And this one felt otherworldly. You know, we drove what was probably only 20 miles, but it was like up into the mountains. And so now you're in this, again, valley with a river and big trees, and there's no ocean. There's definitely no sea. And we just got to have a wonderful time with the house church. We sat, they barbecued for us, and we had this great time of just testimony and sharing and encouraging each other.
Exactly.
It was such a nice time.
It really is.
It was that night, I think, where you were trying to find out if there was anyone that needed a daughter or a son or son-in-law. It was so funny.
Chad, I was trying to break the ice. Okay.
You did so good. Let me tell you, Lydia, that moment was so fun. As you were showing pictures of your kids, a couple of those single guys, and it made everyone smile and laugh, and they were so impressed with you, and it really was a wonderful night. We had a couple of those wonderful nights, and that was one of them, and so it was so neat, and then we drove back. We drove back the next day, and they spent the rest of our time kind of close to the capital. We did drive out to the other church, the smaller church, the village church, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But what were your impressions of the city? This is Tbilisi. It's the capital city of Georgia.
It was just like any other city for me. I just didn't know what to expect. I guess maybe I was thinking, since I've never been to this country, that it was going to be dry. I don't know why I was thinking desert. It was going to be, but it's such a beautiful country. You know, and I understand why the people are so proud of it because of that country. And I understand a little bit now how they used to be part of Russia and now they're independent. And so, they speak their own language. They don't speak Russian, or the older generation does, but not the younger generation. Yeah. So,
there's so much history. So, when we were in Batumi, Turkey is everything we saw was old, and it was like 2,000 years old. You know, everywhere we went, there was Roman this and Roman that, Roman aqueducts taking water. You know, but it was roughly that 2,000, maybe 2,200 years old kind of space.
Which I didn't realize how far the Romans had come.
Oh yeah, all the way to Georgia. Like we went and visited that. You know, we saw the tomb of Matthias there outside of Batumi in the Roman fort called Gonio. And but then when we went back to the city, on our way back, we stopped at this place that was this ruin of a cave city, right? It was called Upletsike. Can you pronounce that yet?
No.
I
have a picture.
It took me a couple of years to try to say Upletsike. But it's this really amazing old place where they found, some of the things they found there date back to 3,500 BC. So we're talking about, Abraham time frame,
Wow.
People lived there that long ago. And it's pretty amazing. The Georgians believe that Noah came off of the ark and settled in Georgia, planted his vineyard, and they're very proud of their historic winemaking places. But you go from old, 2,000 years old, to a different level old, where you're going 3,000 or 3,500 years BC. That's 6,000-year-old inhabitants in that place, and it gives you a different appreciation. You're walking up these carved stone steps that have been there for thousands of years. It really is just remarkable as well.
Right.
Yeah. So then we went out to Sonori. Sonori was this other village, and I didn't realize how far it was. When Gia told me we were going to the village from the city, I thought, okay, it's probably an hour drive, but it was a couple-hour drive. And it actually took us all the way to within, I think, 10 or 12 miles of the Azerbaijan border. So we actually, breadth and width of this country, we went from the west coast to the eastern border, And we got to meet with another small church that had just, they were blessed by, I think they said a Swedish church or a German church had partnered with them to help them build this building, and they had a small building. But it was nice. It was
really nice.
Very nice. Everything
Yes,
was new and clean, and it was actually really encouraging. And we spent some time ministering to them. We sang some songs. But what stands out to you from that day?
Oh, because we also participated in the other home church, but we worshiped together, we sang together, we prayed together, we ate together. And isn't that what the Bible says?
It's just like
Straight out of the Bible, how
straight out-
everybody.
Yeah, we just had community, really.
Exactly.
Well,
But I think the most important part for them, in a sense, is that you could tell that they appreciated that we were there because we were traveling so far. And I know that they understood that we didn't have to come to their church. We didn't have to come there, but we took our time to come with them, to go with them, to encourage them, to let them know that we're praying for them, that we're supporting them, and that whatever problems they have, we also have our problems. That's why we gave our testimonies as well, so they could understand that we're going through the same thing. We just happen to be on the other side of the ocean, but we're going through the same thing. And for us to encourage each other to stay in the faith.
Yeah, it really was wonderful. That night was another one of those perfect moments. Like, and we actually had this ministry time during the day. We worshiped together, and when it was all done, they gave us some snacks. And I thought we were going to get in the van and head back to the hotel. A couple hours. We have a long route drive back to the hotel in front of us, and then they start carrying tables out, and they carry up a big pile of, it was vines. It was a bundle of grapevine wood.
Yes.
They were gonna.
It was firewood.
It was their firewood. Was his grapevine bundle, and they told us that they had butchered a pig the day before, and that they were going to cook shashlik for us. And then, man, once that started, it was just this almost
like a banquet.
It was like a banquet and a party. The whole church. There was families from the community with us. We probably 50 people. They set this table up. So it was this long table that went across the whole courtyard of the church. And then on it was, homemade pickles and bread and the homemade, they brought out their different variations of wines. One of the guys was noted for his wine. So he was very proud of it and wanted everyone to taste a different part. And then the pig and the salads, and there was just actually so much food. We fed 50 people, and I think at the end they picked up. I felt like they picked up more than they put down. Like there was so much food, and it was wonderful. I was sitting with Greg Hilgemeyer, and we were just listening. You're sitting out in this courtyard. It was a perfect temperature night, probably 70 degrees. The
birds were singing.
The nightingales are singing and chirping all over, and you've got. One of the guys from the church was strumming the guitar, and there's a little bit of worship songs going on. And then in the middle of that, Gia stands up and he gives his toast. He's like a toast master. Every time we had lunch or dinner, he would do a toast. Brothers and sisters, I just want to tell you how blessed we are to be with brothers in love and sisters in love. And we just want to say that we are blessed, and may God bless us on our dream. This is this Toastmaster. And then one time he stood up and said there was our brother here, David, just gave his heart to the Lord. And everyone's so excited, and they're hugging and so excited. We find out that, he's the father of one of the young leaders in the church. His mother has been a part of the church for a long time. And here this man, David, has surrendered his life to Jesus for the first time while we were there at dinner with them. And we got to be participating in it. It was really just a special, magical, wonderful night. It was one of those that nobody wanted to leave.
Exactly.
It was getting dark. We're like, guys, we still have a 2-hour drive. And we had been joking about whether our driver was staying awake all the time. So we were wondering, how's this going to go? But it really was an incredible, incredible moment.
Yes, it was. It's beautiful. And yes, we're all ready to go again.
Yeah, so here's my last question for you is if anyone is considering going on a trip next year, I think we're going to go to Turkey and stay in Turkey. We're also maybe going to send a team that goes to Georgia and spends the entire time in Georgia. What would you tell them?
Oh, I would encourage them. It is not only do you grow spiritually, but you also, whatever the Spirit has given you, you are also sharing it with them. Because under their circumstance, it's not as easy as for us. We have religious freedom here. If somebody tells us something, all we have to do is just walk away. But not over there. It's not that easy. So it's something that we can share with them and be with them and support them, pray with them. And I'm sure, they appreciate things like that. I was talking to a friend of mine that I had lunch with, and She used to be a missionary in Africa, and she was telling me, there were times that I wished that somebody would come and just visit, not necessarily to come and serve, of course, but just to come and visit and be with me and pray with me and talk to me. And a lot of times that's what our missionaries are the people that we have across the ocean. Sometimes that's what they need. Besides us going to help out, they also need for us to be there, to pray with them, to let them know, hey, we are here with you. Whether we're here physically or not, we're still thinking and praying about you.
Yeah. When I think about what we do on our mission trips, I kind of feel like there's like two categories. And one is a category where you're just kind of going for the first time. You're trying to understand what's happening in those countries. Sometimes you'll do like a vacation Bible school, or you'll do some sort of open air evangelism. You might go walk and try to meet strangers and share your faith with them. And that's really meaningful for a place that never has heard the gospel. That's really the only place you could start. But the second kind of trip is the one where you go and you're encouraging the believers that are already there. Mm-hmm. When Paul did this in Acts, it said that he would strengthen and encourage the church.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And I feel like this trip, the Turkey and Georgia trip, was really oriented around strengthening and encouraging our partners and those who we find in our faith. And it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
And Chad, I've been to mission trips before, and all the other mission trips that I've been to, it's been to serve to, whatever the need is of the church, maybe the food pantry, the English classes, whatever it is, VBS, like you said. But this one was different. This is a different kind of a trip where our brothers need that support. Just like you said, Paul, how he was over there praying for them and letting them know, do not, give up, stay faithful. I think this is that trip. For me personally, I saw it that way. I had to be there to help them out. When I was asked, well, what was the reason why, how did God speak to you? I said, God spoke to me because as he encouraged me, as the Holy Spirit encourages me and gives me hope and comfort, I also need to share that with others that are also going through that. And this trip for me was that it was something different, but it was something that was necessary for the people there.
I also feel like each team has its own kind of makeup, like the people who are participating. Sometimes you have, athletes and sports stars, and they just want to go and play soccer or shoot basketball or, teach volleyball tactics, whatever it might be. And sometimes you have like a whole group of young kids, and they just want to do vacation Bible school and have water gun wars and just play and just really, or sometimes you have construction teams or medical teams, and they all have. But this team, I had a team of mostly retired, lifelong Christians who have a lot to just give. And I felt like this was the best way to just give everyone that opportunity just to be yourself, have conversations with the people that God brings us. But there were moments where I was wondering, are we doing enough? Do people feel like they have accomplished their goals? And especially we Americans come across with so much. We always have so much anticipation and even sometimes guilt. Like we want to work to show ourselves.
To be honest, I felt guilty.
There was. I heard a few people mention like, "Oh, all we did was come and talk. Like that's not enough." And I'm like, well, honestly, I think that's what we intended to do.
Yes.
But yeah, it's different. We were fed well. We stayed in hotels. Like we were lacking nothing throughout our trip, and yet what a meaningful thing. We got to bless them, and I feel like our team was equally blessed. In fact, this is one of the trips where I feel like maybe we got more out of the trip than what we gave in the trip. And that's always a wonderful thing too. I think that our people were very encouraged by the time. So let me ask you that: if you had the opportunity to go again, would you want to go again?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And I'll probably bring one of my sons.
They would have a blast. Is there either place that you would prefer if you had to pick between Turkey and Georgia? Which one would you pick?
Oh wow, I loved both of the countries.
They're totally unique, right? They're completely different.
They're completely different. But I just liked both of them. Either one. If I had the opportunity, I'd go to either one. Too bad. I mean, it would be great if it was together again, but
yeah, no, I don't think we will. I think one of the things we've done that trip twice where we did them both,
okay.
And both times everyone was like, "Man, I felt rushed," and I felt like
really, wow,
yeah.
2 weeks.
well, 5 days in Turkey, there were so many things we didn't do, and the same thing in Georgia, but it really was,
It's beautiful.
what my hope was, my prayer in this was that God would burden our heart to build long-term relationships. So I was praying that God would give us people in our congregation, in our church, in our context, who would say, we really need to go back there. When can I do this again? Like, I'll tell you, I have a heart for Georgia. Like, whether or not FBC were to go, I'd probably continue to go, even if it was on my own with a small group. Right. But I think we have there is a heart for Georgia now within this year's team, and then the Turkey portion. I think we really needed that relationship with Vahan. I love Andy and Natalie; they're close friends of mine, and they'll remain my friends. But they're working to mobilize Christian Turks to the nations. So they want to take them to Uzbekistan.
Perspectives.
And they're doing in country what Perspectives is doing for us here. And they're even talking about hosting a Perspectives in Istanbul. They asked me if I could come speak at the class. So
I'm sure you said yes.
I would love to go to Istanbul to talk at a Perspectives class. So, well, Lydia, you are such a blessing, and your family, the listeners don't know that I know Jonathan, your son, well, and that we're excited to see how God's going to continue to use him and especially the Perspectives Network and others. They also don't know that you're going to be helping coordinate the Perspectives class at Oak Hills at the end of 2026. So that's exciting as well.
Yes,
we're
a
year away from prepping for that. And so excited for that work.
So everybody mark their calendar.
Yeah, fall of 2026, Perspectives. We're praying that everything will go well, and we'll have it at Oak Hills again. Again, it was at Oak Hills in the past, but it's been a long time, so we're excited to see it come back to Oak Hills. Well, anything else you would say to our listeners?
Oh, they need to get involved in the sense of going. They need to go. You'll never know until you actually go out there. You can hear many people talk about it and give you everything that happened, but until you actually are there, then you will know how it feels, and then you're going to say, how come I didn't go sooner?
I love that. So the podcast is called the So That Podcast. And we take these two words from Psalm 67, where it says, may God bless us and be gracious to us and make his face shine on us. Everyone loves that verse. People read it all the time at the end of their worship services. But the next verse starts with, so that your name will be made known among the nations and your salvation among all the peoples. And it reminds me every time I do the podcast or anytime I read those verses, it reminds me that God has blessed us. He is gracious to us. He makes his face shine on us, not just so that we can see him or know his grace or to know his love. It's so that through us, the people around us can know his love, right?
Correct.
There's always a so that. Why does God bless us? It's so that you can be a blessing to the nations around you. So
exactly.
Whoever you are, wherever you are, use the blessings that God's given you today for someone else. Find a way to share the love of God or to do something nice in Jesus' name, to do a kind deed because someone needs some help. And if and when the Holy Spirit burdens your heart to go among the nations, come and talk to me. I'd love to help you figure out how to do that, where to go, and how to use it, how to use your gifts and talents for the most of his calling in your life. So we're so excited. Lydia, thank you for spending some time on the podcast.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Looking forward to getting to know you even more in the coming years. And for those of you listening, thank you for tuning in. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to reach out to us here at the church. Hope that you enjoyed our podcast. Have a wonderful day. God bless. We are so thankful that you joined our podcast today. We would love to hear any feedback you may have for us. Remember, Psalm 67 says, may God be gracious to us and bless us, and make his face shine on us, so that your ways may be known on earth and your salvation among all nations. Don't forget why the Lord blesses us. It's so that we can be a blessing to those around us. Until next time, God bless.